sport, Mr. Kevin VanDam. Mr. Kevin VanDam. There he is. I knew he'd make it. Got stuck. Come on, Kevin. If you can find a place where you want to sit, that's right. All right. Sit down right next to it. Will that work?
Whatever. Never gets old.
I tell you, would it be better for y'all if Kevin stands right here? Would everybody be able to sit? All right, let's go ahead and I'll sit down here. Why don't you do your thing?
Boy, what a day, huh? What a week. Special place for me, for sure. Man, I don't know where to start, but just to give you a little background on the place, in 2001, I came down here and pre-practiced for that tournament and had just a horrible practice. Horrible. Didn't hardly, get on any fish or anything, and I ran down to the Bayou Black area, and it's where I'd fished in tournaments before, and I got a few bites in practice, and that was it, and that's all I had to go to. And after the first day, I was like, man, I was in third place, and lo and behold, I ended up winning. That was all the classics that I'd fished to that point. I think it was my 11th one. I never, a lot of times I had a game plan. I thought I could win. That one, I'm like, boy, here we go. I'm going to take it in the shin in this one, and I turned around and won it. And came here, and I didn't come in the off season and scout it or anything like that. I just said, this time of year things change fast, and I said I'm not going to come down here and scout it or anything. I've got an idea of what areas potentially hold fish, and I ruled out Venice long before because I knew that the Mississippi's cold. I live where it starts, and it's snowy up there, and there's no way that you can fish 3 days here without having it being fogged in down there and this time of year. So I just said, I'm going to gamble on the other areas on Bayou Black and around Bayou Signet, and got the 3 days of practice. It was brutal again. It was cold, but boy, when I saw Lake Katawachi and saw all that grass out in front of that barrier, and then I didn't know any better. I never talked to anybody or anything, but I ran on plane when the water was real low behind there, and I saw these black spots out there. It was a perfect sunny day there in practice, and saw these black spots. I thought, maybe those grass clumps, and I kind of clipped a couple things with my engine. I've made a huge loop all around behind that barrier, and those of you from around here know what's back there. I told some of the guys, I said, boy, I'm pretty lucky. I said, I'll probably win the tournament because you should never be able to do that without knocking your lower unit off. And, I went back through there and fished it. And that's the thing that impressed me the most about it is you don't have hard bottom on very many places here in the Delta. I mean, it's mud everywhere. And bass need hard bottom to spawn. They've got to spawn on a stump or a lily pad root or something. And to me, it just had all the habitat out in front and tremendous spawning area, protected area with a lot of hard bottom and a lot of grass around those stumps. I said, this has got to be the place. And I checked it 2 times in practice and never got a bite. And said, on Wednesday of the official practice day, I said, as it warmed up, just looking at the full moon coming and everything, I said, this is the place to win. There's just no doubt. And I fished there, and I had 3 bites back there. But one of them was like a 8 or 9 pounder. So I pretty much made up my mind right then. I said, you know what, I'm going to gamble on this place. And it was from first off on day one, it was lights out back there. I knew I'd made the right decision.
Question, Kevin, and all during your time during this year's tournament, did you reflect back to 2001 on things that worked and didn't work, and say, you know what, this is what happened 10 years ago, let's apply it now?
The first place that I went on the very first practice day was Bayou Black, to the same region that where I won the Classic before. And, it's a lot different now. The water was low and a lot of the canals were muddy, but boy, I had to run by those areas. You just gotta, you just gotta see it. I looked at some of the same wellheads that I caught bass off in that tournament and fished that area, and I actually found some fish down there. I found a couple areas that had a lot of fish in them, but just not big fish. And then I found one canal, and one very big, but it had some better quality fish in it. And that was like, gosh, I just don't think that this can hold up for 3 days. So, I knew it was going to be, when it was cold as it was, I said I don't want to go over to Katawachi until it starts to warm a little bit. And lo and behold, it turned to be a good decision.
Back in 2007 at Lay Lake, you went into the third day with a lead, and you ended up in the undercard press conference at the end of that day. But the last two times you've gotten into contention, you pretty much stepped on some people's necks on the third day. Would you call yourself a better closer at this point than you were in 07?
I try to win every single time. To me, the conditions worked out. I got pretty dialed into what was going on back there the first day, and I knew that I'd have to change. I knew that you'd have to be able to adapt each day in that area. There's a lot of big fish there, but it wasn't easy by no means. And I made some adjustments a little quicker than some of the other guys did, and that really helped me on day one and day two.
Kevin, you touched on yesterday your maturation as an angler, staying in a spot longer, even though you like to run and gun. You kind of learned over the years to sit a little longer. Can you talk about that? And then second part, can you go into a little more about the adjustments that you made, what you keyed on, when you saw it, and what you did and how you did it?
The one thing that I've learned over the years in tournament competition is that you got to trust your instincts. The thing that probably helps me more than anything and what won this tournament for me was some experiences I've had in the past with knowing how fish react to these type of extreme weather changes based on the time of the year with the full moon. I knew those fish. They were going to be in Catawachi on Friday, whether it was cold or not. That moon, they're coming. This time of year, Mother Nature says, go to the spawning areas. And, if it would have been cold, I'd have caught them on a red-eye shad. Because as it got warm, the first day I caught them on a spinnerbait, and I saw 2 hours into the day how it was already starting to change. And these fish were, instead of eating, when they first move in, it's unbelievable. And on the Wednesday practice day, that was the beginning of that when I actually found those fish. I think it could have really caught some giant ones then, but it changes by the hour when conditions are like that. Like I heard those guys say before, there's a 20-degree temperature change in a matter of days there, and that's pretty extreme. And the bass, they move fast and they change their mood real quick. So the experience that I've had over the years in different lakes, based on the same conditions the time of year, really helped me with that. Exactly what I saw when I was out there. Again, Aaron and I pulled up the first morning in the fog. I threw a spinnerbait out there, and we had the area pretty well lined up. There was really four of us that knew what was going on there. Scott Rook, Derek, Aaron, and myself. We were the ones that really had it dialed in the first day. Some other people kind of came in around after they saw what was going on, but we knew the area, and obviously all of us had spent a lot of time there. And right away, Aaron and I caught. He caught 2 4-pounders back to back, and I caught a 4-pounder and a 2.5-pounder. And then all these other boats came in there, and spectator boats, and it really shut them down. But they were just crushing the spinnerbait. And a couple hours into it, I'd had 5 or 6 of them just come up there and bump it. They just slam into it. And that's what happens when you start getting a full moon and these bass start thinking about spawning. They don't want to eat anymore. And so you got to make them react. And a spinnerbait's a great reaction bait. The key in the beginning, why a lot of guys missed it to start with, a lot of guys fished. A lot of guys fished in there and didn't catch much at all. And part of that was these fish wanted that bait real slow. You had to, I was throwing a 3/8 ounce Colorado willow spinnerbait. It's a Strike King chartreuse sexy shad color because the water was dirty there. It's my own signature series bait that's available only at Bass Pro Shops. But I was just really slow rolling that bait. And I seen a lot of guys there fishing, and they're winding real fast. And I knew that wasn't the deal. You had to move it real slow. Scott and Brooke and I are roommates, and we talked about it a little bit. And we knew what was going on. He had a good first day. I had a good first day. But by the end of the day, the spinnerbait bite was really dwindling. I could tell it had changed that much. And the second morning, I mean, I fished for about an hour. We had a short day, real short day. And I fished for about an hour, and I had 3 bites on a spinnerbait, and I had 5 of them hit it and miss it. And I said, you know what, it's time to make a change. And knowing the way those fish were bumping that bait, I knew that I had the perfect medicine with a new square bill crankbait that we just came out with. I mean, it's only been on the market for about a month. It's a KVD 1.5. It comes in a 2.5 too. I threw both, but the 1.5 was the deal. And, I experimented with a couple colors, and I pretty much weighed in every bass that I caught after that second morning. The first couple, I caught 1 4-pounder that morning. Everything else I weighed in was on that crankbait. It was just a chartreuse blackback. The water was dirty in there. When the bass get funky like that, they don't like bluegills anymore being around them. So, that's a fire tiger or a chartreuse blackback. It's always a good color when it's stained around the spawn for that reason. And the unique thing about that lure is I spent over a year working with the lure designers there to build a bait that's unstable when you reel it in. Most crankbaits they wobble, they have a wide wobble or a tight wobble, whatever, and they just come back to the boat straight line. This bait doesn't do that, and it doesn't matter if you reel it slow or fast, it just kind of kicks around. It's very erratic, and that's what triggers bass. I mean, that's their instincts tell them that's something they should target. So, basically, what really helped me out a lot was being able to throw that crankbait. I could find these stumps. That big flat out there is, I saw it when the water was low and a little bit clear. There's not 30 foot where there's not a stump. I mean, it's like a swamp that was flooded. So I know how many stumps are there. So as I was going around out there, and especially today, I mean, I learned yesterday exactly what I had to do, but today I'd just go out there to the certain areas where there's clusters of those stumps, drop my power pole, and sit there and just fan cast. And, when I made the change to a crankbait yesterday, I'd hit a stump, and, I'd visually mark it with my own eyes, and I had to, again, I've got these clusters GPSed on my sonar and stuff like that, and I just make multiple casts. And the first big fish I caught yesterday, I made 4 casts to the same stump, just bam, and then I caught it, and I went, I know exactly. So that's all I did is just fished real methodically, and I don't think the other guys got that yesterday. And today I started doing the same thing, and it didn't take long at all. The first half hour, same thing. 4 casts to the same stump, and bam, I catch a 6-pounder. And I caught a 4-pounder doing the same thing. And that bait just is really weedless. It'll really deflect well, and it really jumps when it hits stuff, and that's what triggers them. Also, but I mean, just the action when you're swimming it too is critical. So I mean, the whole time that I was fishing it, I'm fishing it on my own signature series crankbait rod. It's a composite rod, KVD Tour crankbait rod. It's a fiberglass graphite mix, and I was throwing it on a 5:3-to-1 gear ratio reel. I really wanted to slow the bait down. Scott was out there at the end of the day, and he was struggling. I mean, he was really having a hard time getting bit, and I was watching him. I was watching Aaron for the first half of the day, and I mean, we're close enough. And Remitz, he always fishes slow, but these guys they were fishing burning. I mean, they're just reeling, and I said, Scott, that's close. And he finally got it. He started catching a lot of fish, and and it worked out. But I had to reel that bait real slow. And that combination really helped me do it. I was throwing it with 20-pound fluorocarbon line, Bass Pro XPS fluorocarbon, and that heavy line helped keep the bait up. And again, there's so much grass, so much floating grass that you're ripping the grass off it constantly. And really what I was doing is trying to find those stumps with it. So the whole time I'm using the crankbait to feel for those stumps and feel for the grass. When I'd hit one, just make multiple presentations. And, I caught a pile of them today. I called several 20-pound bags catching what I caught.
Kevin, right here?
Yeah.
Just 2 quick questions. One is, did you use your Mustad hooks on that RC 1.5? And also, do you think...
Don't cuss like that, calling it an RC 1.5.
Oh, I'm sorry. KVD 1.5. And do you
think... I did. I put 2 number 2s on it. It really helps that. It's a big hook, and they're really strong. And again, with 20-pound line and all those stumps, they're not going to flex or bend or anything.
Yeah. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
And what was Aaron throwing?
Aaron was throwing the same bait.
I know.
And so was Scott. So I gave him to Scott. The bait's special. It's real special.
Do you think you won the Classic yesterday when you made that change quicker than everybody else?
I do. I was pretty confident going into this morning. You know, you don't want to jinx yourself, but I knew I'd figured out what I needed to do today, and you know, the other guys just I was watching them, and they weren't doing it. So.
Next question here.
Kevin, Aaron said a moment ago that you're just better than everyone else. What do you think he thinks? Is it technique?
I wouldn't say that. I'm going to tell you the thing that I've learned about all the top anglers in the world, and I've been around, you know, all of them. I was fortunate, you know, to fish against Roland Martin, and Hank Parker was out there when I first started. And that the guys that are really good, and Aaron is one of these guys I put in this league. They're very perceptive. They notice little bitty things. You know, the first day we went in there, and when we were in there on Wednesday in practice, you know, there was mullet in there everywhere. And, I mean, we weren't there 15 minutes and on the first day, and we were catching a few, but Aaron said, man, where'd all the mullet go? You know? And he's exactly right. I mean, today, the thing was alive with bait again. Those perception skills are what separate, you know, really good anglers, and it's a lot of times it's just noticing how a fish hits a bait or doesn't hit a bait that tells you what you need to do to make an adjustment to get them to bite. So, you know, I just feel really fortunate to work with a lot of great companies that allow me to develop the products that I want to use. You know, with Quantum, I've got my own signature rods and reels, and I build them for the techniques that I do. I mean, the crankbait rods and reels, and it's built just for the way I like to fish. And the Strike King baits, I mean, the red eye shad I won with last year, I designed it to fall the way that it did. And this 1.5 is the same thing. So I feel, you know, pretty fortunate to be working with people that really understand. And it's really across the board. I mean, you know, Bass Pro Shops and Nitro, I mean, we get so much input on our boats, and you know, it doesn't say Trout Pro Shops on the marquee up there. It says Bass Pro Shops. And Johnny Morris is, you know, he's been to, I think, 5 Bassmaster Classics. You know, he's made a career off of what Bass has done, and you can see, you know, their commitment to, you know, competitive bass fishing. That's why they're a title sponsor, or a sponsor now of Bass. So, you know, I work with a lot of great companies. Another thing that I used this week that you're going to be hearing a lot about is, you know, in the past we had BSX units, sound activated stuff in the water, and I'm part of a new company called Hydrowave, and right down to the wire, Jeff Crete and I were the only two to get. We were supposed to have 8 units here. We've got 8 prototypes, and we had a little glitch with them, and we ended up having 2 working prototypes. And so I used mine through the week, and the thing that was a little bit tough for me is it's a first prototype version of it, and I only had 1 sound pattern and 1 volume that I could run, and it was a pretty aggressive pattern. I've got a lot of experience with this technology, and you know, today was the day that I knew, you know, when you have a little louder sound and more aggressive shad sounds in the water, with the wind we had and you know, the cloud cover and that, I knew the bass would be more active, and you know, I think it really made a big difference. You know, I was really making a lot of short casts. I mean, most of the bass I caught today were 30 feet from the boat, and that's where that really makes a big difference. You know, I mean, it's closer where they can really hear it. You know, bass are very competitive by nature, and when they hear the sound of another bass eating, it definitely makes a difference. I've won a lot of money with that technology.
Kevin, you broke more bass records this weekend than most of us can count. Career earnings, you know, you tied Rick Clunn for 4 Classic titles, only the second guy to win consecutive Classic titles. Breathing some pretty rarefied air. Reflect a little bit on those accomplishments.
Well, I can tell you, when I first started out, I was in awe of those guys. You know, my brother has a sporting goods store in Kalamazoo, Michigan, and in 1987 we started selling tracker boats, And about that time, Johnny put together a fishing team, and they got into the nitro business, and I actually got to get Larry Nixon, Tommy Martin, Rick Clunn, Stacy King, Jimmy Houston. We've had a lot of pros come there, but when especially Larry Nixon and Rick Clunn came to my brother's store, I was so nervous I couldn't talk to them. I couldn't get near them, couldn't go around them. I grew up reading Bassmaster magazine, and the Bassmaster TV show was, that's something that, we didn't have DVRs, we couldn't even tape it back then, We didn't miss that. On Sunday evening when it aired, I never missed it. I would, I'd be there to watch it. So I remember when Rick won the Classic in Richmond, Virginia, his fourth one, and it was just unbelievable to see somebody come from behind like that and be so dominant in the end. It was I wasn't there, but I can't imagine how awesome it would have been to be there. So, he's an icon, and, I'm flattered to be even mentioned in the same sentence with Rick. He's a great individual, and I've gotten to know him pretty well over the years, being on the same team, and I'll tell you that Rick is the smartest bass fisherman that I've ever known. He is sometimes to the point where maybe he's too smart for his own good. He really understands things and has a perspective that most people would never even think of. And I'm sure a lot of you know him and know what I'm talking about. So to me, it's pretty special. I don't compete to try to break records or look at how other people are going to view me. I compete to win. I love the competition. I like to go out there. It's real special to me that I get to compete against a group of guys that I do, because no other sport is like ours. You're not going to see the Bears and the Packers eat dinner together after a game. You're not going to see the Red Sox and the Yankees hang out after they get done playing. And our guys are different than that. They do anything to help you. Aaron's a good friend of mine. All these guys. I can't say everybody is on the tour is somebody that we do stuff with and that, but I know everybody. I know all the guys there, and